Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Avatar. Avatar, the 2009 James Cameron film. It runs 2 hours and 41 minutes long. Whoo, wow. That is a long film. It's not Avengers Endgame long, but it's. Or is it? I don't know. I forgot. Anyway, it's long. And it's kind of a touchstone picture. Well, not the studio. It's a 20th Century Fox film. But James Cameron's Avatar has been linked to Disney for longer than the Disney purchase of Fox. It obviously he has a ride down in the Magic Kingdom, so yeah, there's an Avatar ride down there. I have not been on it yet, but one of these days when we can properly go places, I will be there because I've heard it's amazing. Anyway, yeah, this stars Sam Worthington as a Marine. There's no such thing as an ex-Marine, just a Marine who isn't out there doing that thing Marines do. Um, Sam Worthington plays Jake Sully, and he is taking his place of his twin brother on a trip to another planet called Pandora. We call it Pandora. Humans on from Earth call it Pandora. This is the year 2154, by the way. It's only 130 some years in the future. 140 if you go by 2009's release date. And we pretty much destroyed our planet environmentally. It's pretty much dead. And we're seeking out new life and new civilizations, or at least new ways to get rich and powerful. The funny thing about this is, I mean, yes, this is a story about Jake Sully. He is brought into this new planet. He's paralyzed from the waist down, but since he's shares the same genome as his brother, he's able to be part of the Avatar program. His brother was more of a scientist. Jake is more of a Marine. So he hooks up with a number of different people on this planet, all of them asking him to do different jobs that kind of conflict with each other. One of the cool things about this is that, yeah, this is an almost 3-hour film, but it doesn't spend too much time sitting you through describing everything. There's not a ton of exposition, at least not in a way that is like, okay, this is that. It does it by showing, which is Cameron's strength. We learn about the fate of Earth. We learn about the cultures of this new planet, which seems very familiar. The conflict I'll explain later. We learn about the economy. We learn about the military. We learn about science and technology, all within just a span of the first hour. Not even that. Jake is now on Pandora, which is populated by a culture of people called the Na'vi, and they live in a giant tree, and they are blue, and they are probably about twice the height, and super thin and long-limbed, twice as tall as any human, at least. It seems like it. They're huge, and they pretty much are the Native Americans or the Aborigines of Australia. Either way, they are the Native Americans. I'm going to use that metaphor, or whatever you want to call it. My brain's not working too well. They're the Native Americans in this story, and we are the Imperials, the ones who are just the imperialists who are just looking to lay waste to any lands, kill and destroy and everything else, just to get a certain mineral that will make certain people very rich. And it is awfully named unobtainium. Like somebody from Earth just went like, you know what, this thing is really hard to obtain. You let's call it unobtainium. Yeah. So, yeah, it's the very familiar process of just wanting to bulldoze everything for profit. Who cares about the indigenous people? Who cares about anything else? It's what we do. And the military is on board with this, and Jake is on board with this because he knows how to follow orders, and he is following the orders of Stephen Lang, who plays the military boss. He plays Colonel Miles Yeah, I don't know. He follows a colonel who is just an awesome, just badass guy. Stephen Lang, for a long time, people had always said he'd make a great Cable from the X-Men, and he still would. He looks dead on perfect for the role, but here he's a badass and he's a bad guy, because his job is to pretty much destroy everything in its path to get the people who have hired him and his army to destroy everything. So it's his job, and Jake's on board with this, but he goes in because he's in with the Avatar team, which allows him to put his consciousness inside a hybrid body that's part Na'vi and part human. They have 4 fingers as compared to the Na'vi having 3 fingers and a thumb. But yeah, you can tell the humans apart because four fingers and a thumb. But they're I only noticed that now, like just watching it now, as compared to the first time I watched it. I'd never noticed that before, and I don't think I've watched this since 2009. It's a very good chance that I have not. I think I've seen it a few times in the theaters. The reason why is because this is James Cameron made it the focal point of the new 3D projection craze. It was the first film to come out of high quality in the modern age of 2009 that showed us what new 3D films would look like. And yeah, beyond all the CGI and everything else, it's involved. ILM did all this under John Knoll. It looks amazing and has actually stood up. It's not perfect. There's certain things where you can tell the characters don't have the same kind of weight and interaction with the environment. A little bit, but barely. You overlook it easily for what you see around you. The flora, the fauna, the people, the details, and because their expressions, their eyes and their faces and their lanky limbs and the pretty much naked bodies pretty much distract you from saying, oh, these are not realistic looking humans. These are realistic looking human like aliens. So just the animation of the hair and everything else is pretty amazing for 2009. I remember the first time I saw footage for Avatar, I actually stood in line all night for San Diego Comic-Con, and I had to suffer through a Twilight panel in order to see this footage in 3D. They gave us glasses to watch it with. After listening to people, little girls and grown women, scream at a pitch I had never heard before, just because Robert Pattinson was in the room. I suffered to see the first footage of Avatar. I saw men, like journalists next to me with a laptop reporting on what was going on. Literally, when Robert Pattinson stepped onto stage, the screaming was so loud, so unsettling, he had to cover his ears and he almost dropped his laptop on the floor. That's what we had to go through. I nearly died. Exaggeration. Anyway, Avatar blew our minds at San Diego Comic-Con, and once we finally got to see the whole thing in theaters, they were only scratching the surface. It looked amazing, and it set the tone for everything that came after it. There's a lot of films that weren't even not planning on coming out in 3D that they upscaled into a 3D format that looked horrible and was not meant to be done that way. But hey, it sold more tickets, and it helped them also raise ticket prices at that time. But Avatar, more than anything else, yes, it's a story that I think we've heard a lot before. People called it the live-action Fern Gully. We've had there's so many parallels to Pocahontas and John Smith, with the focus on John Smith more than Pocahontas, because he does meet the native princess in the form of Neytiri, played by Zoe Saldana. she was blue before she was green in Guardians of the Galaxy, and so yeah, she's a big part of this. She's his guide into the world of the Na'vi. And there's a number of other people. Wes Studi plays her dad, and CCH Pounder. Hope I'm saying her first name right because it's just four letters that don't make a proper word without a vowel. But she plays her mom, and there's a number of other actors throughout this. On the science, by the way, also on the science team that helps Jake become Na'vi. Sigourney Weaver. She's the lead scientist and one who's trying to culturally come in contact and learn from these people and get to know these people. She's kind of gruff and hard as nails, and you wonder which one's going to be the bad guy between her and Stephen Lang. And well, you'll have to see the movie to understand that. If you haven't seen this movie, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but or even much of this storyline, but like I said, the story has been told a lot before, but never at this level. Of course, you have him falling in love with the native girl, and yes, that's not realistic. It should not. It's not. It's not 1-to-1 with Pocahontas because Pocahontas was like 12. And there was a whole lot of horrible things. Again, we see the destruction of the native people for our benefit, white people. We see that throughout this story, and yeah, that's where the big conflict comes in, because does Jake, as he gets to know these people better, as he falls in love with the native princess, who's also betrothed to another guy who could ascend to the throne, which is that classic story, and does he side with them, or does he do what he was meant to do, what his job was when coming here, and as a Marine, to help find a strategic way to get the people out of there before they destroy their home. Which way does he go? You know which way he goes. Come on. There's a pretty girl involved. Well, still, yeah, there's the back and forth between whether anybody can trust him, once he learns the culture, even after he learns the culture, when they find out the truth of why he was always there, that's always going to be found out. You know that. That's always the way that story goes. Nobody ever gets away with, oh, I'm going to be here, I'm helping people destroy your culture, but I fell in love with you, and I don't want to do that anymore. And they're like, screw you. Yes, that happens. That's a given. So, this is the way it happens. So that's all I'm really going to tell you about the story, because as far as I know at this point, because that pretty much goes as you figure. What is astounding is just, like I said, the flora, the fauna, the world building that they've created in this. There is floating mountains with waterfalls and creatures that they must bond with and fly or ride like horses and do all sorts of other things. There's so much, and also bond with each other. The same tendril at the end of your ponytail that you use to connect with your horse or your flying lizard is also the one where you connect with your mate when you have sex with them. Or join together as people in order to help heal people at a tree. So there's stuff like that. What you get is natives working against a much more advanced technology, mech, just mechs. They look fantastic in this, going up against creatures and people and flying lizards shooting bows and arrows and all that stuff just makes for some astounding, especially it was in 3D. I wanted to rewatch this in 3D, but I didn't really have the opportunity at the time to set all that up. But it looks great. It's astounding. Of course, people choose sides that you were not expecting to have to choose sides at some point. But yeah, it all builds up to a humongous clash, a huge battle royale at the end. And so yeah, it makes for a great popcorn eating movie night. So if you have not seen this for some reason or another, you ridden the ride maybe at Disney World, or you just heard about it. And this is not Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's, every time I tell somebody, I was like, oh, well, I told somebody last night. It's like, oh, if you talk about Avatar, they assume you're talking about The Last Airbender, and I'm not talking about that. So, other people to mention that I have to say that are in this film: Giovanni Ribisi, he plays a sleazy money guy who's just there for profit. Joel David Moore plays Norm Spellman. He's sort of there to help Jake move into his new life as an avatar. There's just a lot of people. Oh, Matt Gerald, he plays a sleazy military guy too. So yeah, there's lots of familiar faces in this. And by the way, it's been it's been 12 years, but supposedly next year, 2022, we're gonna get Avatar 2, and then another one every 2 years until we have 5 Avatar films. What can James Cameron do to make it something that everybody's like, you know what? More blue people, but not in 3D this time. And what story can we tell that's interesting? I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it doesn't seem necessary, because even Star Wars doesn't bother to put out more than a trilogy at a time. They're not like we'll do 3. We're gonna do 3. We'll do a trilogy. We don't go, hey, you know what? Let's throw in 4 more films 12 years after 13 years after the fact, after the original one. I mean, maybe it'll just up the people coming to visit Disney World for the ride, as if that line wasn't long enough. I don't know, but yeah, Avatar. It's not demanding sequels. I don't think. I mean, the story itself, as it is, seems pretty complete. But yeah, if Cameron wants to do it, and I think he's already knocked out 2 of them. They're in post production. The other 2 are filming, so we shouldn't have to. Hopefully, they'll all come out in good time, assuming that COVID can go away at some point. Yeah, so I highly recommend it. This is something that I thought was going to be a little bit tiresome and like going through the tropes, but it looks spectacular. And I think Sam Worthington is underrated in this role. He's just even when he's in the Na'vi Avatar, he's very unsuspecting in this role, because also the fact, because he's paralyzed from the waist down, we get to experience his first moments as a Na'vi on 2 levels. Not just, hey, I'm now in an alien body, but I'm in an alien body that can walk and run, something I've not been able to do in years. And that joy, that excitement, that thrill is beautifully rendered as he sort of stands up for the first time and stumbles his way out into a world that he is just discovering. So it's kind of really cool. I think they did a really good job with that. And who knows? Hopefully, we'll have something exciting. And he's listed as being in the cast for the next 4 films. So I don't know. I'd heard that there were going to be prequels, some of them, but maybe he's just a bookend character. I have no idea, but we'll see. Let's talk about tomorrow's episode. Pick one.
384.
384. Oh, okay. Oh. Something tells me well, I guess I've seen this before. Or not, I haven't seen it before, but I saw it listed. I don't. We're gonna find out. If it turns out that we've already watched this, I'll come back right after, and we'll pick another one. But for right now, 384 is Notre Dame: Race Against the Inferno, telling the story. This is a Nat Geo documentary that tells the story of when the Notre Dame in France started burning, and so much history was on the verge of being lost. And so this talks about the time they fought to save it. So we'll see. Let's see If I'm wrong, we'll be back here in a minute. Otherwise, tomorrow I'll see you with Notre Dame, Race Against the Inferno, on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. See you then.